Aveva Cesare, Virgilio ed Augusto.
Benito Mussolini was one of the most infamous leaders of the 20th century. He ruled Italy for over 2 decades, leading the country into World War II as Hitler's close ally. But as the war turned against the Axis powers, his reign collapsed, and he met a violent end. Today we will look at the final days of Mussolini, his desperate escape attempt, his capture, and his brutal execution. Stay with us, and don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating history stories. Mussolini became the leader of Italy in 1922, first as prime minister and later as a dictator. He introduced a fascist government, controlling all aspects of Italian life. He admired Hitler and decided to join forces with Nazi Germany during World War II. Together they fought against the Allies, but Mussolini's military campaigns were disastrous. Italy invaded Greece but struggled to defeat the Greek army. In North Africa, Italian forces suffered major defeats against British troops. Mussolini even sent thousands of Italian soldiers to Russia to help Germany, but most never returned. Italy's war effort was failing, and by 1943, the Allies had invaded Sicily. Realizing that Mussolini was leading Italy to disaster, his own government turned against him. In July 1943, he was arrested and removed from power. Italy then signed an armistice with the Allies. However, Hitler did not abandon Mussolini. German troops launched a daring mission known as the Gran Sasso Raid, rescuing him from captivity. Hitler placed Mussolini in charge of a puppet state in northern Italy, known as the Italian Social Republic. But by 1945, the war was nearly over, and Mussolini knew he was running out of time. By April 1945, the Allies had taken control of most of Italy. Mussolini, realizing that his end was near, decided to flee. On April 25th, he left Milan with a small group of loyalists, including his mistress, Clara Petacci. His goal was to escape to Switzerland, and from there, possibly seek refuge in Spain. The journey was dangerous. Northern Italy was controlled by anti-fascist partisans, who had sworn to execute any fascist leaders they captured. As Mussolini's convoy traveled toward the Swiss border, it was stopped near the village of Dongo on April 27th by partisan fighters. At first, the partisans did not realize Mussolini was among the captives. He had disguised himself by wearing a German military coat and helmet. However, upon searching the vehicles, a partisan named Urbano Lazzaro recognized him. Lazzaro later described Mussolini as looking pale and exhausted, as if he had already given up on life. Mussolini and Clara Petacci were taken into custody and held overnight. The next morning, on April 28th, a group of communist partisans received orders to execute them. The exact details of who gave the execution order remain unclear, but one key figure involved was Walter Audicio, a partisan leader who used the alias Colonel Valerio. Mussolini and Petacci were driven to a small village called Giulino di Mezzegra. They were taken to a villa known as Villa Belmonte, where they were told to stand against a wall. Audicio raised his submachine gun and fired. Petacci screamed and tried to shield Mussolini, but she was shot first. Mussolini was then gunned down. Reports suggest he was hit multiple times, with bullets piercing his chest and body. Some accounts claim he was executed by a firing squad, while others say the shooting was quick and chaotic. Either way, Mussolini and Petacci were dead, but their ordeal did not end there. After the execution, the bodies of Mussolini, Petacci, and other executed fascists were loaded onto a truck and taken to Milan. The partisans wanted to send a message to the people of Italy. They dumped the bodies in Piazzale Loreto, a public square where, months earlier, fascists had executed 15 Italian resistance fighters. A massive crowd gathered around the bodies. Furious Italians took out their anger on Mussolini's corpse. They spat on it, kicked it, and even fired more bullets at it. Some people threw rocks and vegetables. The scene turned into chaos. To prevent the mob from completely destroying the bodies, the partisans decided to hang them upside down from a metal beam at a gas station. This shocking display was meant to symbolize the downfall of fascism in Italy. It was also a warning to others who had supported Mussolini's brutal regime. The bodies remained there for hours until American soldiers arrived and took them down. News of Mussolini's execution quickly spread. When Adolf Hitler heard about it on April 29th, he was horrified. Seeing what had happened to Mussolini convinced him that he did not want to be captured alive. Hitler decided that he would take his own life rather than be paraded through the streets like his fallen ally. The very next day, on April 30th, Hitler and his wife, Eva Braun, committed suicide in his underground bunker in Berlin. His body was later burned to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. Mussolini's death marked the end of fascist rule in Italy. Just days later, on May 2nd, German forces in Italy surrendered. By May 8th, the war in Europe was over. After his execution, Mussolini's body was initially buried in an unmarked grave. However, in 1946, fascist supporters dug up his remains and hid them for months. The Italian government eventually recovered his body and buried him in his hometown of Predappio, where his tomb remains today. Despite his violent end, Mussolini's legacy still sparks debate. Some remember him as a brutal dictator who led Italy into ruin, while others see him as a strong leader who tried to modernize the country. But one thing is certain: his execution was one of the most dramatic events of World War II. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more history content. Let us know in the comments what you think about Mussolini's final days. Thanks for watching.